Welcome. After all that, welcome to Widen Your Gaze Fridays. I'm so glad you could join with me today. I'm very excited about you being here. This is my 74th, my 73rd webinar that I've been doing since we've been going to isolation. I generally run them 5 days a week. Last week I didn't because of the holiday, and next week I won't because I got other stuff going on. But I am here pretty much 5 days a week at 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. My name is Luc Bouchard, and before COVID-19 hit, I had a video production company and a lot of shoots scheduled, and we're moving forward. And then, as for so many other people, went into lockdown, and then that's not happening. So I've had to fall back on some other skills that I have, and I pivoted back to my executive coaching. But what I bring in my webinars is really about message crafting and help people really get clear on their messaging, either it doesn't matter if it's on a video or if it's going to be your elevator pitch or how to position yourself. This is really about, what I offer is really about how to actually position yourself well in the marketplace, regardless of what you're doing. Now, Widen Your Gaze Fridays is really about the bigger picture. And the idea is that we sometimes go we're like this, we kind of see stuff, we're tunnel vision, and we want to go back to seeing the bigger picture, and we want to open it up. So the topics are really about seeing something in a different way, shifting your perspective, shifting the way you see things, and seeing how it can, that particular subject you might be able to do better with it, or whatever that we're talking about. And I've had people speak on imposter syndrome, leadership. I've had podcasting, how to do podcasts, all kinds of stuff. So I have a wide variety. And today we have texting in your favor, how to connect and communicate effectively with texting with Andre Lamb. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing and let Andre, actually, I'm going to tell you, Andre and I have known each other for, we probably really got to start to know each other about a year ago. And then we did some work together, and, he's, the reason why I asked Andre to come on and speak on this, on my channel, on this for Widen Your Gaze, is because of how he shows up authentically and how he shows up in a real personal way. And when I've seen him present, when I've seen him talk to other people, there we are. There's always this element of him. You get the real goods with Andre. What you see is what you get. There's no pretense. There's certainly not a lot of ego. And I thought that this would be an outstanding, he'd be outstanding to come and talk about, and to present and to talk about texting and other stuff on that. So without further ado, I'm going to let you take over the screen, Andre. I believe you already have it.
Yep, I do.
Good to go. So thank you very much. Yeah,
awesome.
Andre,
awesome.
Andre, the world.
Yeah, awesome. And Columbus, Ohio, right? Perfect. And Luke, I really appreciate you for the opportunity to allow me to kind of speak on your platform. And it helps me practice as well to be a better communicator, also to help me share my experiences with you all. So again, Youre, if that's how you pronounce your name, Michael, and Judy B-Day, I really appreciate you guys just to be here, just to be part of this. So very grateful for that. I like to kind of share a little bit about my story, scaling backwards here. I've always kind of been a extrovert, but early on, just growing up with my parents, they kind of shield you from that, especially, coming with Asian disciplined parents. I know it's very stereotypical, but what happens is grades in school is much more important. So get imposed with a curfew, and studies are super important. I decided to think that I was an introvert my whole life. And as you grow up, people saying that you're shy, how come you're not talking? It helps reinforce those behaviors. Sort of like you reading a horoscope. You're like, well, that's true. Well, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And when I got out of school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was pretty much a lost boy. And the reason why was because the way my parents motivated me, inspired me, wasn't a way that communicated to me. They used negative reinforcement. They used comparison, and that didn't speak to me. I speak to tough love, but coming from a place of love, or showing that you're there to help support me versus giving me negative feedback. So I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't have that mentorship early on, and I decided to go to computer programming. So I took computer programming, went the career path because you got that piece of paper. What do? You continue going on. And fast forward is 12 years. I had a career spanning 12 years doing software development. Even though I didn't love it or enjoyed it, I did it anyways. It was because I had the opportunity to grow and also to communicate with all facets like designers, developers, stakeholders, you name it. And from that point of view, I started to realize that this wasn't something that I love to do, but this was something I love. And I love people. And before I was introvert and shy, I started coming from a place of like, how can I help? And how can I learn about you? And by talking to various people from different worlds, it gave me a full facet of what makes people lovable, right? So I carried that through. I didn't have the courage to quit my job, right? So oil and gas is big in Alberta. And around 2015, oil crash hit. It used to be $100 a barrel, went down to 40 or something like that. So they let go of my team. I had a team in India, I had a team in Mexico. I traveled there too. So I was actually communicating across different time zones with different cultures. Then I was next. Didn't much of a team, right? So this was my time for really to try something different. I was always attracted to sales. Reason being, well, there was something real about them. Okay. The good salespeople, right? Not the used car salesman that we all been across before, but the people that we admire because they came across as a way to connect and help add value to you. But the way they show up in life, the way they walked, that was attractive to me because I was trying to discover that myself. So I decided to go at 100% sales commission. So imagine this, a salary to 100% commission, telling my parents, man, they're definitely, they weren't impressed with that, but I did it anyways. And I had to start from the ground up with no sales marketing experience. Guess where do you go to? Well, YouTube. YouTube is amazing. It's like a free encyclopedia. So I start searching Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. That brought me in the world of personal development. So I started rewashing 12 years of my education post-secondary with things that are like thinking outside the box, how to communicate effectively, networking. That's how I built up my network. So I remember my first networking event I went to, I was just hanging out with my best friend the whole time. He told me, Andre, towards the end of the night, we're not going to see each other. So talk to the first person you turn around to. So I totally remember that. And I want to pay for that experience. Fast forward 4 years later, I joined Toastmasters. I was VP of membership on that. I charted the BNI chapter. It's a great Salesforce. There's thousands of chapters across the world. Was president for a year and a half. Was able to bring it from 25 members. It dropped down to 8, brought it back up to 20. So, and then I started my own payment processing career. I also have experience in network marketing. So today, I want to talk about texting because, this is really the number one drug in the world, right, everybody? Everyone has these things, especially newer generations. They're glued to these things. Imagine this. If I were to ask you, if someone were to give you a call right now, how would you feel? Well, before it's like you pick up. That's the medium of communication. But since everybody's used to texting, it does feel like an annoyance, like an interruption during your day. Imagine voicemails, right? Some of us still leave voicemails, but imagine for me, the time it takes to get into a voicemail is quite annoying. Like it's a lot of time and energy to get into that message. So a lot of people prefer texting as an entry versus calling because calling, people could be like, oh, what's wrong? Like if I were to call someone, they think there's something immediately wrong or urgent. So these days, we want to be able to get our point across quickly and effectively across text since it's kind of becoming the main point of the entry point right now. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys.
Andre, Andre,
Yes.
I just want to make sure I was muted, not muted.
Yeah.
Are you okay with questions as we go along? Because I have the chat open and people can ask questions.
Oh,
But
absolutely. I
yeah,
like it to be as interactive. It's going to
okay,
be a participation thing going back and forth. And I'm going to call on a few people, right, to kind of get
yeah.
your opinions on your experiences of this. So as
Okay,
we go
so
through this, yeah.
yeah, so I would like to ask a question that's kind of on that. And so I'm in my late 50s, and I'm can be started to be called a curmudgeon and an old fart or that kind of stuff, right? There is a perception that people 30 and younger do not want to talk on the phone.
Mm.
Do you have any thoughts on that, or the fact that they actually they're adverse to talking on the phone? They don't want
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
I would agree with that. Is because it's not happening as often. So they're not comfortable with it.
Okay.
Talking on the phone, totally super effective, right? Of course, right? You're able
Yep.
to solve like 5, 6 problems in just a minute conversation versus a back and forth text that drags over several days. But I feel like it's because the younger generation or my generation, we're not as exposed to phone calls as much.
Okay.
We're not doing it as much so that it's in our comfort zone.
So it is. So it's really it's not a muscle they develop. That communication, that kind of stuff, is how you see it. They've developed other things to communicate, but talking is not on the phone is not the primary one.
Yeah,
Okay.
just like how your brain kind of rewires itself, right,
Right.
to kind of adapt to what's current right now. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, you bet. So this here, guys, this is the brain because I always talk about the why things are the way they think, and we got to look at how human beings think. Because if you look at it, we haven't evolved ourselves from kind of like the Stone Ages, right? Thinking of like survival of the fittest. So when we process information, it goes into right the brain, and then the emotional center is the limbic system. And why it processes it first is our fight or flight, survival, the amygdala, the reptilian brain, right? This is where quick snap decisions are made, right? This is the old brain. So sort of like you're checking out a saber-tooth tiger way back in the day. Are you going to discuss how it is, right? How it's looking? Is it going to be safe? I'm sure the people that have discussed it, talked about that saber-tooth tiger aren't around anymore. So their genes aren't passed on. Normally, you look at it, you run, right? Now, the neocortex, which is the rational thinking brain, is developed later. This is where our logical thinking takes place. So, whenever we're proposing an idea or selling something or advocating for something, we need to tap into both the logical side and the emotional side, building a case for both. So, on the logical side, is why it makes sense on a empirical level. Is it better than the competition? The cost to benefit ratio. Words that speak directly to the logical mind. So if you know that any words you guys use, the more words you use, the more it's more logical, it's more analytical, right? Now, objections always come from the logical mind because we always want to learn more. We always want to think about more, right? But these are not where decisions are made. Decisions are made in the emotional center. If you guys heard, we buy on emotion, justified by logic. Okay. So it's that gut feeling that I must have this. And it's not the words that speak to the logical mind. Like I said, the words speak to the logical mind. More words you use, the more you're going to go into more of a debate, right? What speaks to the emotional center is your tonality. Okay. What do you mean by tonality? Well, how you say it, a whisper, an excitement, monotone, that connects to our subconscious level. Okay. And along with the body language of how you look, your hands, everything, that creates the emotional certainty that we have with someone. Because that's how we kind of, in a sense, trust where someone's going. If I came across an opportunity per se, and I didn't believe in it, it's going to come across subconsciously in the way I speak and the way I show up. Okay. We know it's there, it's our intuitive factor. So that's why I want to be clear about, guys, is that we want to talk about both sides of the communication, the logical mind, which words speak to, and the emotional mind, which the tonality and body language speaks to. But now here's the challenge, guys. If we're texting, what do we have? We just have words. So how do we convey the tonality and body language in texting? Okay. Well, we can't. We can never replace face to face over the phone conversation with text. We cannot. But at least it can be an entry point to allow a conversation to be made in person. So you're leveraging texting to set up a Zoom call, to set up an in person coffee. Okay. You don't want to start selling on text. This is not the objective of this. It's just to communicate effectively because, like what Luke said, people, it seems like there's this persona that we're adverse to falling right away. People are glued to this thing. So, how do we entry in a way so that we can connect to set up that in person conversation? Okay. So, it all starts with awareness, guys, right? So, when I start texting with people and I'm leveraging my experience from inviting people to Toastmasters, to BNI, to grow the chapter, right? To pique curiosity, to grow my network marketing business as well. So a lot of people, they just kind of copy and paste, okay, without thinking behind it, the why. Maybe I have a script. A script's perfect. You got to have a script because it provides the foundation of why certain things are laid out the way it is. But you have to understand why it is, not just copy paste blindly. And like you're basically throwing spaghetti in the wall, seeing what sticks. So whenever I reach out to someone, I always say, what's my relationship with that person? Okay. How well do I know them? What's my level of rapport? Okay. So this determines whether or not I exchange pleasantries, right? So I say, hey, Luke, how's it going? How's your weekend? Or check in with you. How's it been? Right? Especially with someone that you haven't talked to in a while. Or if it's your best friend, you just get straight to the point, right? Because they're probably going to be like, why are you beating around the bush? Okay. You also have to consider their profession. Are they unemployed, employed, self-employed? Or are they a business owner? Are they an investor, blue collar, white collar? Why is this so important? Well, that determines the words that we use to communicate. Okay. Certain words like, for example, diversifying your income, creating multiple income streams, right, would speak to someone that's a business owner or someone that's an investor. Someone maybe that's employed or unemployed will or maybe speak to like, hey, are you open to looking to make some part-time income? Are you looking to join a network that's generating referral-based business? Or are you looking to improve your public speaking skills? We have to connect at where they're at, right? Not expecting them to go to where we're at, but for us to go to where they're at. Their interests. Okay. So how can we connect with them to add value to them? So is family important to them? Paying off debt, less stress, travel, liberty, do anything I want, anytime I want, giving back, passion projects. And even better if you know what their why is. And it takes time to kind of peel back that onion, right? So it begins and starts with awareness. Second piece is be outward focused. Okay. A lot of us we're texting because we want to get them, right? It's what's in it for us, right? And that's how salespeople have a bad rap is they talk to people, communicate people in a way where they're not listening, right? We're problem solvers. So in order for us to solve the problem, we need to learn about them, ask questions. How can we serve them? Okay. So always being outward focused, whether it be helping you save time and money in your business, create less stress at home, add an additional revenue stream, right? Maximize your digital marketing strategy. Why? So it's kind of understanding that. So being kind of focused on them, not on us. Okay. Strive for connection, connect with common language. So if you're looking at someone on LinkedIn, look at their profile. What interests them, right? So you're speaking the same language to someone that is perhaps a dentist. What what clicks with them versus someone that is a plumber, right? Is running plumbing trucks, or someone that is a digital marketing agent. You want to also use words that create a positive emotion. So words like I will love to. See the difference in that? Like love or trust. I like to connect with people that I trust and respect, all right? That I value, right? That I understand. I want to share some education. I want to create awareness around this thing, right? And then connect to the subconscious. So, just how, tonality, we spoke about body language connects to the subconscious mind. Here, we can actually use words that connect to the subconscious mind. Okay. Seek to understand. We're here about empathizing and understanding, not reloading and shooting. So knowing that I'm here to kind of figure out where you're at, this is the basis of creating that texting conversation. Okay. So magic words. And this is not from me. I got this from a gentleman named Phil M. Jones. I totally highly recommend this book. Anybody here read this book before? Exactly what to say?
I'm not I'm not familiar with it.
Highly, highly recommend it.
Okay.
Especially if we're in a position where we have something to offer, we want to be able to connect with someone where their buying decisions are being made, right? And how this works is giving you a few examples here, guys. I'm not sure if this is for you, but I'd like to ask you, Why do you guys think this is effective?
I'm not quite following your question, Andre, when you say why this is effective. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So why do you think this word here helps people? I guess how does this phrase in particular maximize your influence?
Well, I'm seeing four phrases. Are you talking one specifically?
No, just the first one. I'm not sure if this is for you, but
I
that's
see.
one
Okay.
phrase.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I thought you were saying you're not sure if this is for me to use, or this is in my own particular my own business and whatnot. So you're saying, how does that land on me? I'm not sure if this is for you, but
Yeah.
well, it gives me an option of not being locked into having to agree with someone. It allows me to basically think about it, and it's not being thrust upon me. Is what comes to mind for me.
You got it, right? It gives you an out, right? So it's just saying that there's no pressure here. And when there's no pressure, intuitively, we want to know what it's about. Because if we're pushy or pressure, there's the opposite effect. Even though if we have good intentions, even if we were trying to lead them to make a decision that, it's going to solve the problem, we inherently will push away and back off with that. But by prefacing it as, hey, there's no pressure here, it makes us more enticed to learn what's it about. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And I'm just monitoring the chat here, actually. So, yeah. And then open-minded. How about that one? Michael, I'd like to call on you.
Hello. You said open-minded?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your question so that I understand how to answer?
Absolutely. So the word or phrase open-minded, why do you think this has tremendous impact to influence someone?
The idea of being open-minded, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure that of these four phrases, I'm not sure that one I can connect the most to. I think the other three I might be able to explain a little bit better, but that one I'm not as sure about.
Sure. Appreciate your transparency on that. And for this, the open-minded part is because if I say, would you be open-minded? Are you open-minded? Most people would say yes. They would never consider themselves not open-minded or closed-minded.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, right. So it helps you lead the conversation to where you want it to go, right?
When I looked at the phrase open-minded, I thought about it as kind of a cliche. It's not exactly a phrase that I would typically use because it is somewhat cliche. So I don't know if I'm trying to talk to someone's subconscious mind, sure, anyone would say, oh yeah, I'm open-minded. And then of course, whatever they say after that would attest to whether or not they actually are.
Sure. But it helps create the yeses that we want, right?
Okay, so it's
it's
yes.
positive, right? Yeah.
So it's building collaborate. It's building consensus. These are the ways to actually get people to. Do I understand that right?
Sure.
Correct, yeah. Andre, it's about you're building common ground.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, these phases here are effective in text. That way you can lead the text to a in-person conversation over Zoom or over coffee is the idea.
May I ask a question about this? I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead. In terms of designing these messages for text, are you making any distinction between doing this in text and doing this as, say, an email chain?
No, they work just as effective in both.
Okay.
And these are even better in person. So I definitely consider these magic words to use in any platform of communication. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. And then another one is, what do you know? And this one's effective in a way to get control of the conversation, right? Because like all people think they know everything. And that's how we're built to think. So by asking what they know, it helps move the other person's position from one of certainty to one of doubt. So what do you know about company X? What do you know about that? right? So you're just kind of peeling back the onion. And one of my favorites is what makes you say that. And this is a great way to handle objections. Because a lot of times we handle objections in three ways, right? Number one, we believe them and we run away. They win. Number two, we fight them, right? So if I tell you that you're wrong, someone that feels wrong is definitely not going to buy from you. Number three is being a professional, be a consultant, understand where they're coming from. So instead of jumping to conclusions or responding back, because if we respond to an objection right away, we appear pushy. So I always like to say, what makes you say that? To kind of peel back the onion. Okay. In the end, again, we start with the awareness, we end with action, establishing a time frame. So it's always like setting it up. Let's check back next Wednesday or Thursday morning, which works for you, or when will be a good time. Okay, so that you can use that timeline, wrap it up, hold each other accountable, and also assume the best outcome, right? So instead of, can I have your number? What's the best number to contact you at? So is that assumptive close, assuming the best outcome, assume that it's going the direction that you want it to. Right? And summarize the structure here, connect. So you want to connect by understanding what's your relationship, where they're from, understanding that, what their interests are. And then value sharing is, okay, based on that, because you know them, what can you bring forth to make their lives better? And then you end it by confirming something as a next step, whether it be a meeting in person, a call, you name it, to take it next. And here's some examples, guys, just to put it all together. This works really well for me, right? Just for texting on LinkedIn or in person or on Facebook Messenger, to just share what you have as a business or your opportunity that you have that could possibly help people. And I can kind of piece everything together based on those concepts. Is I'm not sure if this is for you. So that's a magic phrase, but are you open-minded? That's another one, to looking at other ways to diversify your income. I will love to. So I will love to is a positive emotion to provide you a second opinion. No promises to do anything. That's an exit. Just to see how I can serve you better. Would you be open to that? And then great. We'll connect further over Zoom. Does Monday or Thursday morning work best for you? So that's more an assumptive, projecting what day works best. And let's connect. This is my business website, my LinkedIn, which Luke shared already on the chat. And I like to leave it open to you guys in terms of questions, comments.
Well, I have a few things that as I've made some notes, the thing that I've learned from your presentation is shifting the focus from being, I don't know how to say, it's like, texting is my least favorite way to communicate because there's so much, unless it's I'm going to be late, do you want 1% or 2%? They don't have Caesar salad. Do you want me to just get a garden salad? Yeah, that kind of stuff, that works for me on text. But what the problem is with texting for me is when you're actually texting and somebody asks you a question and you're going to answer, and then they ask another question and they ask another question. So I spend more time actually qualifying which question than I am than answering the question. So do you have any strategies on what to do so people you're not getting into this talking over each other thing? You don't know what you're actually talking about?
Lead it to a call. You'll know when it kind of gets out of hand, where the texting back and forth is kind of dragging it on. And that point, I'd say, hey, are you available now for a quick 5-minute phone call?
Yeah. Because I will often say a 3-minute conversation will circumvent a 20-minute texting.
Yeah, because I think at that point, Luke, when you're having a back and forth conversation, they're already super interested in what you're doing.
Okay.
Because you're qualifying each other.
Okay.
The texting here, the objective is to open up that conversation with a stranger, with someone that is an acquaintance, someone that is a friend.
Right.
Perhaps show what you have, right? Have them come check out what you are doing. Okay. Like, for example, these are great where if you had a network marketing company or opportunity that you're leveraging. You want to share a product or service, or you want to invite to your networking chapter, invite to Toastmasters. So it could be straight like an invite text.
Right.
Hi, Luke. I'm not sure if this is for you, but would you be open to attending a business conversation around X?
Now, in this day and age, do you have to qualify if people are texters, or is it a given? Or do you have to even ask permission to text them?
You don't have to ask permission to text them. You can just text them to begin with.
Okay.
Like I find that calling someone that you don't know is intrusive.
Okay.
And the reason why I feel that way is I feel that way. I always want to put myself in their shoes. It's having that connection. But I can call someone that I know very well.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So it really is the platform to launch into. You can't see my hands because you can.
I can. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a platform to launch into something bigger. It's a way of actually being able to have that. Some of the things I like what you talked about was it being outward focused, and it is about the fact that you're also trying to make it easier for them. So you're saying things to lead the conversation so that basically it's just not kind of falling flat, and you're guiding them on that. But really the focus in so much, and so typical of you, Andre, is how can you serve? What can you do to make it easier for them? How can you bridge that gap? How can you, make those connections on that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, so do you want to just check out the chat there? And I see that.
Michael said part of the challenge of exposing tone with words and text is that people's attention spans are very short, right? When I explain something in detail, then tonality is frequently lost simply because they did not read it through it. Yeah. Tonality seems to require more words. So yeah, in a sense, special words, for example, like, I really appreciate you reaching out. I really appreciate you getting back to me. The words itself are loving, positive. When the reason why it affects me in that way, because I feel the same way. If someone were like, what are the words that people send to you? Maybe look at the text that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. Right. Or use emojis, right? Because sometimes things get out of context and people misinterpret it, because you could definitely misinterpret things on text easily because it wasn't your intention, because you could sound rude, but you weren't. And emojis, unfortunately, not as professional, but I don't use emojis as much. I typically use soft language, Like
but
an
emoji can really set the conversation in a different tone. And on that, right? Because I find I will do things like LOL just to let people know I'm really joking, because they may not know on that kind of stuff, right? And and God forbid if I should happen to leave it capitalized, then now I'm yelling. And it's like that was my intention, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, is there too much? Could there be too much emojis? Could it just be now becoming
too much emojis? Is just it moves away from being professional to unprofessional, more in the friend territory. Like it kind of gets like really silly,
Right.
That's what they say. Like it's up to you based on your relationship with that person. The thing is that you don't want to lose your credibility in front of that person. You want to uphold that standard, right? Okay. Yeah. So overuse is not good in my mind, in my opinion. Yeah. But I use words like to speak enthusiasm. Like if someone like is open, I'll be great! Exclamation mark. Awesome. Right. Where appropriate, because exclamation mark can make it sound like you're yelling, but use it just like how you would speak in person. I take that and put it into my text. And because the tonality and the body language isn't there in text, I have to switch out the words with more warm and fuzzy words
to bridge that gap.
Yes. So it makes you feel good. When you read it, you're like, oh, this person cares.
Right. So it's less impersonal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have, and this might be my age, or this just might be how I'm wired. I personally think if somebody sends me a text and I don't respond timely, I'm ignoring them.
Hmm.
Now, and this is going to be, and this is for acquaintances and friends as much as people that I have professional relationships with, and I'm doing that type of thing. And because, and the other thing that's interesting about this is, since I've been doing these webinars, I'm finding all my clients in the States, and that's where the most of them are coming from. And now we're actually entering into texting and whatnot. And there is a difference I find with individuals that are close to my age on how they see texting versus, let's say, the 30 and younger demographic on the type of stuff, right? So my first question is, when it comes to, I'm assuming, and I'm just going to say this is an assumption, that if it's a business relationship, you want to be more timely with responding to that than if it's just something, then it's just, you can, it's just somebody else on that. That's correct?
Based on my experience, yes.
Okay.
Because if it's business, they're probably talking to more than one person, and response time matters.
Right. So you're not looking like you're ignoring them and whatnot.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah. You're
Okay.
kind of like, it shows that you're competent. You're on top of
Right.
things. And I always, at least with email, I built the habit of saying, I received it and I'll get back to you type of thing. Like, at least acknowledge that I did get the email or text and I could be busy.
Right. And
So,
yeah. And it's like, and also, especially if you need to have a well thought out answer,
yeah.
you don't want to wait a day and then answer. Then it looks like you maybe were ignoring that person for that whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If you know it's going to take more energy, more thought, more time, then just send a simple text back, letting them know that you'll get back to them on a certain date. So you set up a time frame for that. And so you
Yeah.
set the expectation.
Yeah, it's interesting because I recently connected a guy from Denver to someone in Seattle, and Jeff to Eric. Eric was in Seattle, and Jeff responded immediately with the introduction. Looking forward to talking to you. And Eric said, "Yeah, likewise. Checked out your LinkedIn profile. Wow, I will respond by Friday." So he responded. He did a quick cursory, but he couldn't speak right then, and so we let that.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's only good if you actually follow through with when you say you're going to follow through.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because
yes.
if you don't, yeah, that's right. Like then, it's just like you have, and I personally believe you under promise and over deliver.
Yeah.
I'll get you by Friday, knowing full I can get you back to tomorrow, and then always have that thing, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
On that.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hello.
Hi, Elena.
I'm intern for the insurance at Allstate. Is it the right building?
No, this is for texting. Are you?
Yeah. This isn't related to Allstate Insurance.
No, this
Elena.
is about. It's interesting that you got here because it's my personal Zoom room. Anyway, no, but this is for. It's a webinar on texting, so you might want to check your link again because this is my own personal Zoom room. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a question here. How do you figure out the why? And this is just having open-ended conversations with people. So asking questions, like good thought out questions. A good person that has a lot of good questions you can seek from is Mr. John Maxwell. He's kind of like the leadership guy. And there's a lot of great inquisitive questions to figure out what people's wants and interests are. One of my favorite is, what do you love to do? Or if you had all the money in the world and let's say you traveled the world already, what would you be doing with your time? Or you could just ask, hey, do you happen to know what your why is? And it comes to that point where it's not like, let's say, Luke, I'm starting a text conversation with you. Hi, Luke, what's your why? It'd be really weird, right?
Why am I talking to you? Why
yeah,
am
like
I?
what that's very invasive.
Why did I give you my number? Just like to begin with, yeah.
So that question is very deep and personal, and it takes time to build up that level of rapport. Where, let's say, if it's a good friend, you don't need to like exchange pleasantries. You can ask your good friend, "Hey, Henry, what's your why?" And he'll answer right away because you got a good level of rapport, and you can just ask directly on that. Because for me, I love people. I love to see where people are going. So for me, I love deep, real talks. That's the only thing conversations I seek to thrive for. And for me, as I always love to say, yeah, what do you love to do in your spare time? What fills up your cup, right? If you had the choice to design your dream life, what would it look like?
Right. Right. Yeah, and it really is about that authentic connection and that meaningful connection and whatnot. So, Um,
Yeah, so that actually goes, this is Michael again. So that actually goes to my question in the chat there. How many icebreaker steps do you recommend before you actually get to the point? There's one thing to start a conversation and it's a back and forth, which is great. But at some point, you know, you have to kind of get to the business. So how many steps do you recommend?
Yeah. So for me, I haven't boiled it down to a science where it's like 3 steps, like very analytical in nature. For me, it's about my gut feeling, intuitive nature. Okay. So I know the flow of the conversation where the timing is perfect for me to bring that up. You know, it's just like, let's say, Michael, you and I were having a conversation, right? I'm like,
Sure.
hey, Michael, how's it going? Just stopping by to say hi. How are you? I hope you and your family have been keeping well. That's one touch point. You might reach back and say, hey, Andre, great to hear from you, man. You know, my family's well. And you just stop it. There's no open-ended. You don't open it for me. Because usually people open, they'll be like, what about you? But let's say you didn't say that, right? Then I would say, great to hear from you, Michael. I'm glad to hear that your family's doing well. How's the pandemic treating you? Right?
Right.
I ask another question. I always end my conversation with the question because it allows me to be in control and allows me to carry it on. Okay. I always answer and then ask a question. That'll allow me to get to know more about you. Right. But my question is always based on the previous answer. So it doesn't
Right.
seem like it's weird and disconnected, like I'm a detective or something. Right.
Right.
Yeah. And then also I say, yeah, like, what do you do for work? Like, how's work impacted by the pandemic? Right. Or what's your business? Because they'll share. And once they get the share, normally people will always reciprocate. They'll ask, what about you? What do you do? How's business? Then you have the opportunity to share without seeming like you're selling. And you could say, I do X and X and X and X. That's it. You're not going to push it on. You just share. Then you ask them another question. And then you see if they're interested in learning more about what you do. Or based on their answers, you can figure out a problem and highlight the problem and show that you can solve it.
Good. Thank you. That's a good
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah. So it's a flow. It's a flow. And it's great for texting too, because texting can take time and you can build the rapport. Because call is like you're on the spot, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Excellent question. Thank you, Michael, for participating in that and doing that. What are the other things you're ever what else did you want to know about texting but were afraid to ask? Do you guys have any? What else do you want to know?
You can send it to me privately. You know, it'll be an anonymous question.
So here's something else, and I've kind of started alluding to it before, but I'm going to ask this now, is that, you know, intention, I really like how you start with an intention, and that's always my point of entry when I'm working with people is what's the outcome? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to take people? And so my thought or my question is about having reasonable expectations for a different generation and just being mindful of the fact that they communicate differently and whatnot, and that if they're really reluctant to get on the phone, you know, I think I have to kind of be mindful of my frustration with that and not judge them for that, which is easy to get into and whatnot. Should I expect, if I'm speaking to someone that is under 30, that just if phone conversations happen, that's going to happen down the road? I just need to put more work into it. Like,
yeah, because I think texting is a great way to create that connection.
Okay.
And then you can lead it to a phone call and make the phone call as your primary method of communications, where they're actually comfortable about hearing a phone call from you, Luke, because that's the way you've always been communicating afterwards.
Okay. And what about, I've texted with some people where their spelling is like, actually, I'm having a hard time. Not only is it bad, like I'm having a hard time understanding the actual context because their spelling is just, and is there, what are your thoughts on that? Is that become very kind of loosey-goosey where that's really not a representation of someone's smarts? Because I have to admit, kind of like, you know, I know that, yeah. So I don't know if I'm just engaging in old fartism and whatnot, right? But if someone can't, you know, so when they say, I can get how saying thank and then the letter U, as
Oh.
that's a shortcut. But
Yeah.
it's when it's a blatantly badly mistake. Like there's not, it's just they just didn't check, or there's spell checks on it or something on that. So
Yeah.
is there more latitude these days for just having kind of that on the fly, and we're going to spell night NITE as opposed to NIGHT now type of thing? And
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that's your what you're projecting, right? Of what you usually do for yourself when someone doesn't align with that. There's no congruency.
Right. Right.
So that's normal. I feel that way too. Like for me, when I text, I make sure everything's spelled correctly. Sometimes when I send them, like, oh my God, I missed a word or something.
Right. Right.
I feel bad about it because that's the way, because I'm very aware of how I present the way I communicate in my texts, because I want to keep it professional, right? At high level. So if you're communicating with someone that isn't that way, then it's just more like getting to know the person down the road to see if that's just like a blip, but not to let that take you away. I would say consider that when you text people though, because if you receive text from other people, it's okay. You could serve them, there's value there. But for you, maybe you want to operate in a way that's high level, high status. So consider maybe not using those short-term texting acronyms. Just because, what if you were texting someone like Luke and that was your first impression? It wouldn't make you look good.
And you want my business more specifically,
right. Yeah. So just look at how you want to step up and create the best first impression to the majority of people. And that's by not slacking off on your texting. Create spaces. Treat it like an email, but not like a long email on a text, but make it easily readable. Hi, Michael, comma, space, blah, 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 right? And then another line break. Would you be open to connecting at? Like, you make it easy to read, because the other person would definitely appreciate that time and energy you put in to make it so easy to interpret, right? And get straight to the point.
All right. Do we have other questions that people are wondering?
There's another question saying, like, how do you identify the preferred method of communication? Well, either like knowing the experience you have with that person down the road, like you see them call you. I have one person calling me, right? And he leaves me a voicemail, call me back. So I know he's a person that likes to call, or have someone just text me instead. So you get to know, but I love to ask, especially my clients, what's your best method of communication? What's your preferred method of communication?
Right.
I go to them.
Yeah. Because it can't hurt, can it?
No, cannot. Yeah. That question, it is not intrusive at all. Yeah.
Well, it's actually respectful in many ways, right?
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Because if you hate texting and phone calls, but you're fine with email, what if someone loves the phone call? It's like for us to communicate with someone that's a controller, someone that is an analytical in nature, someone that loves to have fun, someone that is a connector supporter. We need to be a chameleon ourselves and to be aware that to shift our communication style that speaks to them. We can't expect them to come to us. We have to be controlled to come to them. So let's say you're dealing with a controller. Let them be in control. You're dealing with an analyst. The information is key, right? Promoter, someone that likes to have fun. Other person, relationships. So same thing with communication is that we have to go to them. Yeah. Even if we hate texting or phone calls.
Yeah, because it really is about them. It's, and as I often say, is everyone's tuned into one radio station and one radio station only, WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
Right on that. So, okay, we are at coming up to an hour. We've got lots of time for questions. So what do you see in the chat there?
Yeah, there's another question from Michael. The fine line between sharing versus oversharing. Okay.
Talking your personal information, Michael, like how much you share about yourself?
Yes, like in these text messages. So if I'm reaching out to someone, I've personally worked at trying to keep my messages shorter. I tend to write expositionally. So like you see with even my communications in the chats, I'm trying to keep it to like 3 sentences, but I recognize that, one after the next, it ends up being a long block of text anyway. So that's what I'm kind of gauging, You know, when does it become too long, didn't read? You know, when might it start to be irritating to the other party, even though I'm really just trying to craft a whole thought?
Because I can tell that just by talking to you, Michael, that you definitely prefer phone calls face to face. Because you or no?
Actually, I will, because I type so quickly, there's no problem me writing out a full email like 3 times this length in like, you know, just a few minutes. So people who know me, who do interact with me, they're used to me having long emails. It's like, yeah, they almost question, well, why didn't he just call? Because I just type quickly.
Yeah. Because just by speaking with you, Michael, we can go on for hours, and that's a great thing. Because you're like in depth. You have a lot to speak about, and you craft it together very, very logically and very intentionally. Where it's like you're crafting a story to share. So that, in terms of like, let's say, imagine an email or someone texting you, it's a lot to consume, right? Lots of energy. So you have to consider that it does actually take a lot of energy for people to break it apart on text versus a phone call, right?
See, I'm
well, you know, and
I'm sorry.
I just want you go ahead, Michael. No, you go.
The reason why I tend to exposit so much, and that's really the key word when I describe my own writing. The reason why I do that is because I recognize, you know, once you hit send, it's hard to pull it back. So I've always been of the mind to over-explain to make sure that it's clear, but I'm recognizing that culturally, it just comes across as too much, or some people give me, you know, pushback, like, you know, you're just saying too many things. And I'm just trying to make sure that it's just clear.
I get it. And there's times where I was writing an email and also I'm like, oh, backspace, phone call. Because it just felt like it was like, oh, it's just too much. So maybe in that case where, like, if you want an effective text or email, keep it short, straight to the point. Like I have sometimes I deal with like CEOs and presidents, they write one word responses.
Right.
You ever see that? Yeah, because time is money for them. So in the same case where you have a lot to share, maybe just say like, hey, are you open to jump on a phone call or something? If you feel like it's led to that point where you can create an invitation to jump on a Zoom call, phone call to continue the conversation. Or not, if you're having a conversation with someone that loves to communicate in your way too, then leave it. Because if you see them respond back to you with the big paragraph the same way, keep it going.
Got it. Right.
Judy has a question about ending it awkward and whatnot, but I do actually want to go back to something with Michael and just put on a bit of a different hat here in my executive coaching hat. And I just want to ask you a question: is so when you say that you're worried that you're going to leave something out, or that because you present as somebody who wants to be cogent, you want to be well spoken, you want to represent yourself well, and so because when I get long texts, and when I see it's a long text, I often is like, oh shit, I opened it, so now it's not going to remind me it's there. No, just so I remember to answer it, because if I don't have time to actually get into a long text, I'd rather not have. I wish there's a read unread function on that so I can get to it later, but it really is like I have to stop and I have to concentrate, and it doesn't put me, it takes me out of what I'm doing. For me, text is you're in, you're out. And so my question is that, you know, what might be the fear? And you don't have to answer this, and I know this is not what you signed on for when you came today, but what is that fear going on where you might be worried that you're going to not be as complete or on that? Like, it's like you're worried that, it sounds like you're worried that you're going to either miss an opportunity or there's going to be a consequence like of that. Would you?
Very simply, it's tonality. That's really what it is.
Okay.
Because, you know, sometimes word choice, you know, you feel like you're getting to the point, but it could come across as being very short, terse, you know, something that, you know, it doesn't convey maybe the warmth that was intended. So I've erred on the side of being too long, so I don't come across as being like, you know, like you were saying, the one word CEO answers. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like the one word CEO answers, like they don't care as much, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I can imagine them saying, "Just be happy you got a response." Michael, what industry are you in?
I'm a web consultant, web content consultant.
Okay. And so, yeah, so there's a times when you have to get into long detail to get a clearer instructions on what you're doing, right? So
Yes, especially when I have the client meetings and I have to discuss, the findings when I do the audits and the testing and all that kind of thing. Yeah.
okay. And where are you based out of again?
New York City.
New York City. Cool. Okay. Thanks. I
Thank
think
you.
you're the first time you've been on one of my webinars, eh? Is that?
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you'd be here. Okay, we put off Judy long enough. You want to address that question?
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael.
So sometimes ending a text conversation can be awkward. Any suggestions? Judy, do you have an example? And in terms of suggestions, I guess in which way you're referring to, like how to recover from it or how to end it? You just want to end it without being awkward. I'm trying to interpret what the question is.
Judy, you could just, unmute your microphone and then speak your question. You don't have to turn on your video.
Or you can text. Okay, how to end a conversation, okay, without making it awkward.
Okay.
Well,
you're welcome.
Most of the time with texting, how people typically end a conversation is they just don't they don't say anything anymore. It's kind of like the concept of ghosting, right? So either you have, they say what they need to say, and it depends on how they end it is the thing. Like if they ended with the question and you didn't respond, then you're probably looking like the bad person, right? Bad guy, right? Or if they made a statement, you can just leave it. You don't have to respond to it because texting is very loosey-goosey, on people's time frames. I just love to see if you have an example, and then I can craft that because there's so many around there. Or you could say, "Great catching up with you. Hope for the best," or "Take care." Take care is a good one. I wish you well. Take care.
The thing that I do get in with some people in my texting is the last word effect, where they they have to have the last word, and it's just like, okay, I'm done playing this right now, because it was just like, and it's just so yeah, have a great day, you too. No, that's pretty easy that you don't respond to that, but yeah, this just seems that they have to end with the last text on that. So
yeah, because most people they end a texting conversation by just not replying.
Right.
Like imagine a breakup text. Right? A lot of people break up over text messages these days.
Right.
So
I'm wondering also if it's just that it's a Judy, if it's just a conversation that just seems to be going and you want to get off and you just want to, I'm ready to go, and then how to do that without looking abrupt. And if that's what it is, it would just be got to go now, or thanks for the talk. But it was just a night, just maybe reflect the fact that you need to go, and then just not leave abruptly. But
yeah, because like a send off, right? Like just like how you would try to leave a party or something, well, have a great weekend, have a great day, take care, or something like that. I usually say, like, I always say, have a great day is a great send off. Right. To end the conversation. Yeah. Without being impolite,
Right. Before I forget, are you going to talk about what's behind you?
The brick wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a brick wall. I wish it was. It's pretty sweet though, but it's a backdrop. Yeah.
And approximately how big is it?
Oh, the size. So you're putting me on the spot here.
Yeah, I am. You can text your answer to me.
Yeah, I will text you the answer, and then you can pass on that answer because it's not coming to my mind right now.
Okay. I guess the reason I find it interesting, or the reason I'm finding it's noteworthy, is I've seen a lot of people use the virtual backgrounds, and I highly recommend that those do not get used, because I was talking to one guy, his image in the background was a harbor, and right in the middle of his forehead, you could see one of the masks coming through his forehead. It was extremely, extremely. So when we talked about doing this talk, you had that. And I'm thinking that's great. And because the reason I was asking the size is, mine is quite wide. I have it set on for quite wide on that. I could have it where it's more 3x4, your old TV screens, but they're on that. So anyway, it's just you had to buy a stand, and there was.
Yeah. So it's actually 10 by 10. 10
Okay.
feet by 10 feet. So 3 meters by 3 meters.
Yeah, and it looks like it fills up your screen. Like it's not as if you're pushing it too close on that. Do you get a lot of comments on it?
I do.
Yeah.
People are always thinking like, where am I at? Do you have a brick wall in your home, exposed brick wall? So it's worked well for sure.
Okay.
It's great, of great quality, as you can tell.
Yeah, and Canadian, how much did you pay? It was a couple $100 or
Canadian for this screen here is about $60, and the stand was 70. So the stand costs more than the background.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the other thing too is there any it doesn't look like any lights coming through on the other side. It's very it's totally opaque. Do you have a light that would come through that would block? I'm worried about people putting it on a wall and then they have over a window, and that's clearly you can see a window through it. Do you know if that would...
It's the quality where the light doesn't
totally
go through.
Opaque. Totally opaque.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the term.
Very cool. Okay. You're welcome, Judy.
Yeah, my pleasure, Judy.
Okay, we are just about 65 minutes into the presentation. We will go until we're at a conversation or until we're done. While you guys are thinking about your questions, I'm just going to talk about some of my webinars that we have coming up here. And so we'll transition to that, and then we'll come back. So let me just pull that up here. And okay, so I did mention that I have other webinars that I do, and this is a list of them on that. And there we go. So other webinars I offer is, one of them is defining your ideal client or customer, your avatar. And I really look at how do you, whether or not you're business to business or business to consumer, how do you identify them and how do you basically sell to them? So that is actually, that's not right. I've changed the times on that. It used to be on Mondays. It's just, that's probably not going to show that for 2 weeks because I just did it 2 days ago. This one is on Monday, and it is dealing with difficult interview questions. So I have, as part of my executive coaching background, I've engaged and been in more interviews than I could possibly remember. I kid you not, like I've done a lot of hiring. And so in this, it's like what Andre did today. It's more of some information and then it's a conversation. But I will cover things like, how do you answer questions like, tell me about yourself, what are your strengths and weaknesses, what challenges do you constantly face, have you ever had to deal with have you ever had a difficult supervisor, why did you leave your last job, where are your plans for your next 5 years? These are the questions, and I'll give you some insights and some ideas as to why those questions are being asked and why I would ask them. So it's really very conversational and it's really helpful. People have really expressed a lot of gratitude for it because it gives them some inside information. On Tuesday, I have Ageism, Navigating the Potential Minefield. This is a new webinar. I did it yesterday and a lot of response for it. So I'm going to do it again tomorrow. I had a different title of it. I'm going to see if the title works a bit better with this and see what the traction is on that. But a lot of people feel that ageism is a minefield, and I'm going to talk about how to actually navigate that so you don't find yourself dealing with that. On Thursday next week, I have Becoming a Subject Matter Expert, how to position yourself as an expert and industry leader to potential employers. So it's really about what do you do before you're looking for that job to position yourself in the market. And yeah, that will be next Thursday. And of course, on Fridays of Widen Your Gaze. And my guest speaker just canceled on that, so I'm not sure who's going to be speaking next week. I just might do a special presentation. And another presentation I'm going to be doing is about video interviewing, how to interview well on videos virtually. I'm developing that content. So I have also how to have a kick-ass elevator pitch, part 1. That's the value proposition. It's really about how do you, when do you, why is the value proposition important in your elevator pitch? How do you talk about what you bring to the table, which is another word for value proposition. And it's really about positioning yourself in the market with what you do that's unique to you or special to you. And then I have part 2, which is navigating the elevator pitch. And it's really about the mechanics of it. And also I offer a very simple but elegant model on engagement, and it's called the Icebreaker exercise. And lastly, communication fundamentals. I've been talking about doing this for now a couple of weeks. I haven't put it on yet because there seems to be other content that needs to be more relevant, but I will eventually do this. And this is what makes good communication. Where does communication fall off the rails? Why is there conflict? Why is there communication differences between men and women? Someone just asked me if I would cover that, and thought, yeah, that makes good sense. So it's like, what is the fundamentals of good communication? So those are the webinars I'm currently running. There's going to be more content. I want to thank everyone be here. And my lasting thought before we get back to Andre with his questions, or asking him any more questions coming up, is I just really encourage you to not try and fit in, because you're born to stand out. So thank you everyone being here, and let's get back and see what other questions we might have. As soon as my screen kicks in and takes me out here because it's frozen. Okay, it might be working. Okay, do we have any questions? Awesome,
You're welcome, Michael.
Wow, there it happened again, eh?
Yeah, you disappeared for a bit.
Actually, what happened? Can you tell me what happened on your end?
Yeah, it just froze. Like you froze.
And for how long, Andre?
Probably like 8 seconds or something.
Okay. Enough to give the best and greatest idea in that moment, and you guys all missed it because Zoom. Just kidding. Okay. We've got some more time. Utilize Andre. He is using them and abusing them. No, just kidding. Ask him questions.
Not the last part.
Okay. Because if we don't have any more engagement, I'm going to call this a day.
Yeah.
So
I just definitely want to end it just being outward focused, focusing on them and what's in it for them, how it makes them feel.
Yeah.
Just because how you want to be treated, just the golden rule in text. And we just got to be aware of that. And once we start wearing that, then we apply it, and then we start learning from our experiences to craft better messages.
It also gives us a not an expectation, not like it keeps that engagement is really about a good rule to have to follow, to always keep in your mind, is about how do we serve, and how do we be outward facing as opposed to inward facing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no one else that has any questions, going once, going twice, gone. We are done. I'm going to ask everyone to sign off, and Andre are just going to do a little debrief here. And thank you everyone for coming today and sharing part of your Friday with us. No, thank you very much. So
appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah, you guys take care, and please come back for more webinars and tell other people about it. Okay, and reach out to Andre. He'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, let's connect. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay, so I can